What does social mobility mean to you?
It means giving access to people that are in less advantaged situations.
I think social mobility means when everyone has the same opportunities, irrespective of where they come from, of their background, and having the ability to take advantage of these opportunities.
To me, it's a function of allowing people, individuals who've not necessarily had the privileged upbringing, to be able to give them the opportunity to thrive. And I think the opportunity hasn't always been there, especially in this industry and various other industries. And I think the fact that we're looking into it, and we have been looking into it over the last recent period, and I think that says a lot. And I think giving these children, these university students, these schools, etc., the opportunity to do what we all do and love, and I think that's the real objective of social mobility for me.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I grew up on a small island on the west coast of Scotland. There's only about 2,000 people there, super small, everyone knows everyone, but there's not a lot of opportunities. Most people stay, go into farming, fishing, or making whiskey. From a schooling point of view, it's your typical small island high school. Not many people care about education, and you're not really pushed into it. Access to university is pretty slim. I think in my year group, only 7 people actually went to university, and I was lucky enough to be one of them. I went to Strathclyde University in Glasgow, studied engineering. It was great, an amazing experience. And after that, went into the energy sector. I designed some wind turbines, some power systems, and then worked in a little bit of product development. And then now I work at Bain, where I've primarily worked in the private equity group, and then also going in to do a bit of general consulting as well.
I'm Mohammed. I came to this country when I was 13, and I joined a state school at the age of 14, so I joined year 9. So I did a couple of years before doing my GCSEs, so I was trying to learn English. I ended up doing pretty well on my GCSEs, and then I was admitted to this very good selective state school in Stratford, which helped me quite a lot because it really increased my ambitions of where I want to go for uni. So after 2 years there, I decided to do a gap year, and then I was admitted to UCL, where I did 3 years studying social sciences. I've done my graduation last year. I've joined ICG as a graduate in the real estate team.
My name, obviously, Ovais. I work in fixed income within the emerging markets group at Bank of America. In terms of my background, I came to this country when I was 2 from Pakistan. My parents worked very hard when I was young to give me as much education support as they can. We didn't necessarily have a whole lot, but I think the objective was to make sure that they worked hard. Found a way to, following on from my sister, got into university where I wanted to, and then since then it's just been a gradual hustle drive to keep persisting, to find ways in. The doors necessarily throughout my career weren't just opening naturally. I think you had to keep persevering, and I think that's the mentality I think you need to have. And I think my upbringing, probably the value of money, the value of working hard, the value of appreciating what you have, and realizing that everything doesn't come easy. So I think that gratefulness, which is instilled into you by the family that you have, helps you become that person and appreciate everything.
As someone who comes from a less advantaged background, what challenge did you face during university, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest challenge when first going to university was feeling like a bit of an imposter. Immediately I was surrounded by people that had been to much better schools than I had, in a lot of cases better grades than I got when I was in school, and I felt out of place. And I remember getting to the first Christmas and thinking, I can't do this.
Still had some challenges. So for example, I used to travel from East London to UCL, which is based in Bloomsbury. So I had to pay quite a lot of money in travel costs as well as food, because when I was going to uni, I had to have lunch there. So because of that, I had to work. So I remember during my first year, I worked in this research company. So that obviously took quite a lot of my time while I was going to uni. So I had to really balance that.
I think it was a culmination of the whole period leading up to it as well, because as a child you don't have the same privileges or blessings and access to extracurricular stuff that most other people who you came across at university did. So I think that was the experience. At the time you knew nothing else. You knew nothing. You didn't know anything better. You were just there in that situation. You were facing these challenges. You just thought this was normal. This is how you have to do things. Your life would evolve around your parents' work. It wouldn't be the other way around. I think in our generation it was more, we'd be doing homework in the back of a car on the drive to wherever my parents needed to go. It was just, you had to fit around people's lives because it was just the only way to keep going and have the means and stuff. So even getting into school, getting into university, it was challenging, but once you worked hard to get there, even when you're at university, having to work while you're there and have part-time jobs just to keep the money ticking over, I think was very important.
When I went to uni, I didn't have like a network of people there who I can straight away join and talk to, which I think a lot of private school kids, maybe they have friends who are going to the same uni. So that was quite difficult for me at the start to adjust to the university. And I think one more thing would be that I wasn't able to benefit from the opportunities that university gives. So for example, join societies, sports club, which I think was very new to me because I didn't have like all of the societies or like sports. I didn't have like a sports background where I used to go school and go to sports every week. So it was quite hard for me at the start to join those clubs and then meet all these people who are from these private schools who have different interests to me, who are going on holiday somewhere, and I've been on holiday for 2 years, so it's quite hard in that sense.
You're not going to spend your Easter holidays or half-term holidays or summer break somewhere glamorous. You'd work, you'd do various jobs, you'd work in a supermarket, you'd work stewarding or anything you could get your hands on just to keep the money ticking over. And I think that combined with studying was a lot compared to other people. That to me was one of the main challenges.
The way of sort of overcoming this was actually, I got really good mentorship from someone. They really put their arm around me, made me feel like I could do it, gave me the support I needed. But the biggest thing was encouragement and just going, you have absolutely every right to be in this place the same as anyone else. And just having that bit of extra belief in myself. Worked very, very hard to catch up to my peers and then was fortunate enough to overtake them in some areas. And because of this single person, I ended up getting a few scholarships while at university, got some very good internships, and it set me up on this amazing path. But it was really from one person taking the time to really give me the support that I would make a difference.
In your opinion, how does the university experience differ for students from a lower socio-economic background compared to those from a more advantaged background?
I think the biggest difference is the preparation aspect. You're just as capable as anyone else there, that's why you've got in, but it's the support mechanisms around it. I think people that have been to, or maybe come from a more advantaged background, this is something that's generally been prepared and drilled into them from an earlier age. It's almost like in lockstep, and it's the natural progression forward, whereas people not from that background, it's very much the unknown. I was the first in my family to go to university. My parents couldn't give me any advice, my cousins couldn't give me any advice, and I was really on my own trying to figure it out. And because there's no mentorship or these immediate support mechanisms around you that you've had growing up, parents, family, friends, you're really lost in the dark. Whereas I feel that some people that have come from more advantaged background, there's more people in their lives that have done that path and they're just better set up to take advantage of it.
I think the main challenges comes when trying to find the work, because so for example for me, I face numerous challenges. For example, when an interview came up, I was quite nervous. I didn't know, okay, it's face to face, what should I wear? I was really overthinking sometimes. Oh, like how do I introduce myself? Also because my parents are not from kind of finance background, I wanted to go into finance. I wasn't sure on what that involved, so I had to learn, myself kind of what I had to.
I think the paths are often made easier for someone with a privileged background, and it's not always the case. From my perspective, it was a situation where the whole process of even grad programs and the right path to get into the industry that you want to get into wasn't necessarily laid out for me. It wasn't mapped out for me. It wasn't saying, okay, you do school, you go to university, you go straight into a tier 1 bank, you work there for the rest of your life. From my perspective, I think it was a function where the number of times where I was phoning, just temping agencies up and agencies in the city, just trying to get a foot in the door, as the analogy goes, just trying to get visible, working anywhere, just to say, okay, I've worked here, add that to my CV. And my parents were always a big advocate of, don't worry, just get the name on your CV, which was always something which I remember.
What advice would you give to students from a lower socio-economic background?
I think there's two main things. The first one is believe in yourself that you're supposed to be there, or that the path that you can go down. And the second one is to be bold and seek mentorship.
I think today we have so many opportunities for people that are coming from a low socioeconomic background. You have so many firms doing social mobility programs. You have a lot of organizations like Upreach doing a lot of different programs for students from low socioeconomic backgrounds. So the main thing is just look for them. It's not too hard. Go on Google, just type social mobility programs, type work experience programs, and you'll come across most of them, and just apply to them. Like, even if you get rejected once, just keep applying, and get advice. So I think there's quite a lot of mentoring programs as well. Obviously you have LinkedIn, so reach out to people who went to the same school as you, and ask them questions. Create a CV, ask them to review your CV and get feedback. And don't be nervous. Sometimes I was really overthinking some of the stuff, which, do not overthink too much, and always ask for advice. There's so many people out there who'd love to help.
Just work hard. I'd say persevere, never give up, because from my perspective, I'm very fortunate now that I've achieved a lot in my career, and I think I feel like I've shown, and I think if I can do it, and I think many other people have done it as well, where if you've come from a low base where you've worked hard to get where you are, you've got in a foot in the door into the city, which was the industry that I wanted to get into, and then gradually moved your way into the seat which is where you never saw yourself getting to, and then the level as well where you never really saw yourself getting to. It's achievable through hard work, and you can make it happen.
So in the believing in yourself, you can absolutely do it. Getting into some of these higher up, more prestigious jobs, it's not as challenging as you may think it is. It's a lot of work, and you definitely need to stand out, but you have an amazing story to be able to tell, and a lot of resilience that you've had to go through to get to the position you're in. And I would say just absolutely lean into that. Show that, be your true self within that, and people will notice it. Employers will look at it and think it's amazing. Universities will look at it and think it's amazing. And it's really going to set you apart from your peers. In terms of being bold and going finding mentorship, try and find people, whether they're inside your network, not inside it. Go and talk to them, tell them about your story, and just say why you need help. And you'll be surprised, but most people will actually put their arm around you, give you a bit of help, give you advice, and keep those ones close.
It's not just, even if you have a rough start, even if you have a path which isn't as lateral as loads of other people, you can still make it. But hard work and good ethics really, really matters, and never giving up. So that's my advice.
How do you think employers and organisations can champion social mobility?
I think one of the best way to give someone an opportunity is by having internships, social mobility programs, work experience programs. I think a lot of people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, they have no idea about the finance industry. They don't know what happens. They're not really introduced to that from a young age. So when they grow up, they don't really consider that as an opportunity.
I think the biggest thing that employers can do is getting involved around schools and areas that are disadvantaged at a very early point. And we're talking maybe this around 10, 12, 14 years old, really showing like the opportunities that are available. The hardest bit from my experience was...
So I think for employers, they should, try to work more with outreach or do their own work experience program, the internship program, and try to market that well, because a lot of times students are not able to find the opportunities. So one of the best way I think to market is by just going to schools that, where you have a high percentage of people who are on free school meals, for example, have like a webinar in that school. You introduce you firm to the students and then tell them about this work experience. I think that would help really quite a lot.
I think we need to be more aware of people in different societies to make this industry open, rather than it just being an industry which is just only allowed for people who are from 4 universities in the world.
The hardest bit from my experience was I didn't know what was out there. And because I didn't know what was out there when I was like 12, 13 years old, I didn't know where I wanted to push myself. I didn't know what I cared about in school, and because of that, I wasn't that interested. If I'd known all these different careers were out there and how exciting they would be from a much earlier age, it really ignites that spark, gives them that light bulb moment to just drive their own development forward. So employers just need to get engaged at a much earlier level. You may not see the full advantages of, like, say, just going after a final year university program, but in the long term, you're going to get a much broader range of people, and that's going to do wonders to your business.
It's just not a university thing. Sometimes a university is quite late to do that, because some students are already doing something else which doesn't kind of fit with finance. So I think it's probably better to do it when they're doing the A-levels, for example. So I think, giving more opportunities, having more webinars, more sessions with students from lower socio-economic backgrounds. Okay.